we typically do a skill assessments, and then we do an in-person conversations with them to understand it. But it differ from a mid to senior, because that's where we would want to find out an individual who not just understand the tech, but also understand the health as a domain, health tech as a
Mm.
domain, and would right be culturally fit. Uh, and to assess those, we do a BEI assessments, which is behavioral event interview assessments. We also do a star-led assessments for them.
Welcome to the All in Recruitment podcast by Manatal, where we explore best practices, learnings, and trends with leaders in the recruitment space. If you like our content so far, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Spotify to stay tuned for our weekly episodes. I'm your host, Lydia, and this week we have Sandeep Sethi of Emids. Great to have you with us, Sandeep.
It's my pleasure, Lydia, meeting you and joining your podcast.
So tell us a little bit about your journey in this space, Sandeep.
So my journey goes back about 2 decades from now, Lydia. If I look back, it's quite enriching, transformative, and quite rewarding. I started my journey with an Indian IT enterprise organization. I started with them as an associate, and over a period of years working with them, I've moved to the cadre of a senior manager. In those days, I was managing in recruitment operations, overseeing in India business unit operations for them. As I move forward ahead in my career, I pivoted more towards strategic assignments on with respect to recruitment operations, defining processes, realigning the overall horizons pertaining to capacity planning, be it about optimizing sourcing strategies, and the kind of work that I've done over the period of those years has helped me to take up a leadership role as I moved ahead in my career journey, and thereby I've taken up roles in domestic IT services company and multinational assignments. Currently, I'm with Emids, and I take care of recruitment operations for the APAC region of Emids, where we focuses more on providing services and bringing talent for a health tech industry and sector.
Right. So when you mentioned sourcing as being one of those areas in which you look at, but is there a particular a trend or pattern that you've seen in terms of sourcing that has changed maybe in the past 15 or 10 years?
Oh, yes, absolutely. If I go back, the time when I started, actually, there wasn't the job board so prominent then. It was the time of, personal connection. I remember I used to have quite many diaries or, plug cards where people used to exchange visiting cards, and that's how you generally source your candidates. But as the technologies moved along, you have initially the job boards, and now the social, websites, and so be it LinkedIn's, be it Twitter's, these are the various forums where you interact with people and then assess and, connect with the relevant candidates whom you would like to see through. So, and thereby the techniques of engaging and, approaching people have evolved. Today, I would say the technologies has eased a lot more approachability. Today, people can connect fairly easily, using any of these modern mediums. And there is a specific places, communities where you can go and participate and look for the relevant talent. Right. So yeah, it has really evolved from where it was and where it is, and it is continuing to evolve. It is moving at a really fast pace. Today, the recruitments generally happen through social media. As I go and meet people outside and we interact, as a various forums and communities, we do engage with the talent. And that's how there are various other modalities of doing new tech of sourcing, and not just, like I said, one-on-one interactions, but one-to-many.
And there's also, I mean, it is dynamic, as you said, and there are also many different channels to choose from today. So in terms of the health tech industry, Sandeep, is there a specific type of sourcing channel that you tend to go to? Is it a community, or is it social media being more broad? Where do you tend to look for?
Well, from a health tech perspective, of course, there are traditional ways of sourcing, as you just mentioned. There are job boards where you do find people in. But if you need to hire, I would say, a mid to senior candidate, right? Those are the ones, or the passive seekers. You won't find them, very actively available on the job boards. And for them, you have to engage them. And as you rightly says, there are certain communities pertaining to the health tech sector, and you need to be part of them. There are a lot many available either on LinkedIn. There are certain, individual specific groups, and there are groups being created on WhatsApp. There have been groups where you can create on Twitters, and then there are communities where you, by virtue of being in that space, that you get invited. And there you have to have conversations, and you engage with them on a common topics and various threads. And by virtue of it, you have to find, you have to talk about as to what your vision and mission's about as an organization, and then you embark on conversations about a role that we will have, and that's how that conversations begin with those set of professions.
Yeah. And in terms of communicating that, the clear, that vision that you talked about has to be very fluent in whoever is recruiting in these channels. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It is extremely important. And that's where our leadership believes in over communicating our own value systems. And it's quite relevant to, all of us, because we are a strong believer that, purpose is the most important or the motivating factor for an individual to excel in his or her role. So our three important value systems, as we, practice day in, day out, is that we wanted to be a trusted guide for our customers. We wanted to create an impact. So we are impact obsessed in however we do, and we wanted to continue to innovate. So we believe in being an inclusive innovators, and these are the three value systems that we practice day in, day out, and we communicate this to each and every member of our organization, even to our candidates. Since from the beginning of the process, we ensure that not just the job description that we have a conversation with the candidates, but also pass on this message that what is the purpose that what we're trying to do as an organization, and if you join us, what purpose that you should envisage as you join your hands with us.
So in your role in Emids, are there some key areas that you are focusing on or prioritizing at the moment, maybe in the past year or so?
Yeah, so our focus has been to make the lifespan of people long, right? That's predominantly what health tech does, right? To take care of, to increase the span. And now, by virtue of it, right? That's the main purpose. Now, how as an IT or a tech organization, how we can make the ease of healthcare services, to the common users. And then, of course, we have our customers who are into the health tech space, and they provide, they are either in the segment of payers, providers, and life sciences. And, we help them to transform their own existing systems, to make their overall operations a lot more easier and, easily consumable by the end consumers. Just a small point, right? Imagine there is this patient who has to go and visit a clinic. And generally what we do is we take an appointment, we try to take an appointment, we try to create a clinic. You have to wait at the clinic. You have to then meet the doctor, explain your situations, and then the doctor will try to diagnose it. And, that takes a lot of time. Imagine then there's an app where even before the moment you take an appointment, the doctor gets to know about your history. You can also mention about what is the problem that you're dealing with. And even before you reach there, half of the diagnosis has been done. And not just about the current diagnosis, but also the doctor gets to know a previous history. The technology will also help you to tell you that how much the wait time that you can anticipate as you before reach the clinic. Now that helps saves times, that helps bring better experience, that helps maximizing the times of the both patient and as well as the doctor, right? So it makes a lot more. It adds a lot more time and visual resources to entire overall ecosystems.
And in terms of delivering this or communicating this business need to talent, incoming talent, is there any particular area that you're looking at in terms of increasing the number of talent or looking at streamlining a recruitment process inside Emids?
So we have been doing in trying to be better as to what we are, right? We have been focusing the last couple of years to make our recruitment more of a data-driven approach, right? And we also look at how we can bring better experience to our our candidates and to internal stakeholders. Now, and experience being the fulcrum and the central element of whatever that we focus and we do, right?
Right.
Now that's being the important point. Now, vis-a-vis when you talk about what are the different things that we've done, we're trying to make our process, far more efficient, agile, so that at the moment a candidate enter to the process, and by the time that it ends, it shouldn't take much of time. B, at that particular overall process, the candidate should know that where, which, and what stage he or she is at, right? Because half of the time there is a curiosity among the candidates. I don't know where am I, with which part of process that I stand in. Is this leading to closure, or is this going to take long more time? Likewise, there is this other stakeholders. The hiring managers, they are also being curious as to how many candidates do I have in the pipeline, right? So when you bring the process efficiency to it, when you make the process a lot more transparent, it helps to bring better experience to all the stakeholders. And of course, one of the important stakeholders is the recruiter, themselves.
Yeah. And in terms of recruiting for positions in health tech, are there any unique challenges that you might have seen or the team has faced?
Yeah. So the challenge is about looking at a specialized skills, as you rightly said, being as a health tech. You need to look at people who have, a amalgamation of both the sides, which is on tech as well as of a health tech as a domain. That's a challenge, and which leads to a point that there is always a talent shortage, right? Where you need the skill talent, but that kind of talent is not that available. And B, it is the way rapidly the technology changes itself. It's very difficult to keep at a pace of it, right? You decide to plan to do A, but then you're already moved on to B, and then you have to, then moved on to the C. So, in this ever-changing environment, I want to quote a line from one of my leaders. He says that we should always look for athlete and not just the sportsman, and that says it all, right? So, which means in
endurance being a key factor in that.
Absolutely. And it's just not about, see, because if I may quote an example here, if you look at it, if you follow cricket, there's a cricketer called Jonty Rhodes, but he himself is an athlete because he's German, he represents a South Africa country, and there he's played, he's not just played cricket, he's a footballer and he's a rugby player. So you need someone like this who can play and can change the modes as it may be, or able to move from one sports to another. But the basic elements remain the same. That of course, you need to be fit, you need to have endurance, you need to have passions. Those things, those elements there. But skills, of course, move on and as it changes. So we look for people who possibly an athlete, who we can mold as we look forward to current and as well as future landscape of hiring.
So how do you assess a candidate's potential in terms of this rapidly changing sort of environment? It's very dynamic, as you said. So what does it take in terms of technology or in terms of an outlook or approach to recruitment?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So, I would like to bucket wise into two segments. One, of course, the entry to junior, and then of course mid to senior. And the reason I say that because entry to mid, our assessment criteria is not very different from any other tech organization, right? Because we typically do a skill assessments, and then we do an in-person conversations with them to understand it. But it differs from a mid to senior, because that's where we would want to find out an individual who not just understand the tech, but also understand the health as a domain, health tech as a domain, and would be culturally fit. And to assess those, we do a BEI assessments, which is behavioral event interview assessments. We also do a star-led assessments for them. There are certain levels and above where we want to do a psychometric test assessment just to know and how this individual has been performing in certain scenarios and situations. And if need basis, there would be a reference checks for certain key roles where we would want to see how the person has been performing in the past roles. And those are the additional checks and balances that we would like to keep in play before we hire a mid to senior person.
In terms of hiring time or time to fill, is there a specific target or a kind of time frame that you look into as being ideal for hiring?
Yeah, absolutely. Recruitment is all about hiring at the right time, right cost, right? Right individual. So, time plays a very, very important role. What we believe that, we should able to hire an individual in about 30 to 60 days. That's the time that if you look at it. Again, it varies, right? Like I said, for a junior roles,
Right.
the supply is
Level.
slightly more available, so you can hire it, slightly faster than a key roles or a senior roles because there the supply is limited and thereby it takes slightly more time than that. But
Mm.
that's the time frame that we look at.
So, in your experience, Sandeep, what are some of the components of a great place to work? Now they've got this talent coming in, right? And what do you think makes a great place to work?
Yeah. So by the way, we are also a great
Yeah.
place to work. We've been awarded. We've been doing it consistently.
Mm.
I go back to what I said: the purpose, the value systems, and that defines a positive company culture. That in my view is the most important element of a great place to work because unless members of an organization don't relate to what the purpose is, what we're trying to do, they won't be able to relate to that organization, and that's where our value systems come really handy.
Mm.
And not just about having the value system, but having it communicated the way it has been defined, right? Because it's extremely important that what we say is what similarly has been understood by our employees. Secondly, I think career opportunities, right, and the stable career opportunity or opportunity for growth is an extremely important for a place to be great place to work. Employees well-being, right? Here we focuses on a well-being of employees, be it mental, be it physical, be it financials. There are various activities that HR and even a senior leadership comes and play in part and ensure that there has been a guiding, there's been mentor, and of course there are the benefits being played on the card for people to be comfortable when they work with us.
Mm.
Um, and last and very, very important, the rewards and recognitions. You be it in formal or informal way, you need to reward and encourage the meritocracy and the better performance in an organization. Yeah, I think the last and very, very importantly is having an communication, open communication, because if you don't communicate and have it, the open communication challenge, you don't get those feedback, which is extremely important for an organization, for individual to grow. So you need to have those platforms. We have created a various platforms. So as part of our town halls or we have our intra sites where we have our internal chatbot system where employees can write anything and everything, and from a junior executive to a CEO as part of that particular chat community, I mean, the chat channel. So if I need to share something, if I have a great idea, I can
Mm.
just type in and I know the next day I might get a chance to meet my CEO and talk about it. So,
Yeah.
these are the few components I believe are extremely.
Yeah, and all those as well. These are great initiatives to make sure that there is a dynamism to the place of work and also to the talent that's coming in. And of course, being the internet, being all the chatbots that you have, there's no escaping automation and AI, for instance. So, what do you think has been the impact of AI and automation, particularly in recruitment for health tech?
Yeah, so I think AI is definitely a great enabler of
Mm.
what we've been doing, and we have been being an early users of AI. We have done some of the use cases as part of the recruitment processes. We took or our recruitment team takes help of AI to define JDs and eliminating any
Mm.
biasness from the JDs. We also leverage on AI to source better, to help us enhancing our sourcing capabilities better. While a recruiter has to go to multiple places to post and attract the talent and to write, but now with the help of AI, and there are a lot more tools and technologies available in a recruitment arena where there is one forum, one place that
Mm.
you write, and it gets just spread out at a multiple places, right, and from the back end. So that's that. It helps a lot in terms of enabling a screening process, which is a big benefit, big operational efficiency from a recruiter. While the recruiter has to go through about 5,000 applicants to go through about maybe the one relevant. Today, thanks to this AI, where the screen and search match, and based on the patterns of hiring, the AI does a great job in terms of aligning what are the key components that we're trying to look at in an individual, vis-a-vis shortlisting the similar set of candidates for us and giving us the relevant top 10 or top 50 individuals for us to speak first and compared to the rest of them. So these are the great benefits. And AI is the backbone of AI is nothing but data.
Yes.
And that's the new oil of this era, right?
Mm.
We always had data with us, but we never knew that how we can, make real sense of the data. And AI has really helped us to
Mm.
read the data in the way which can help you to make really relevant and strategic decisions. So these are the places that we believe it has helped us so far. But yeah, there is many more for us to learn.
And with data comes that constant look and relook at your processes and looking into improvements. And has that become a culture over there at Emids?
That's absolutely. I mean, that's precisely what I said. It's extremely important. I can gladly say that we are now data-driven hiring team. Reason being, if I need to now, my recruiters knows that if I need to hire an architect or a health tech architect, they just don't need to go to about 20 places. They know that there are just about 2 places or 3 places that they need to go to. There's certain communities they need to engage, what to write, how to connect, and that's just make the work so much easier and faster. Because if used to take about 90 days to hire, today it's just about identifying the right sort of individual, just about 2 weeks to 3 weeks away, and that makes a strong business case for us to to promote AI as part of our overall hiring approach.
Indeed, and that's also extremely efficient because time dictates the success rate of recruitment in any company as well. So in terms
Absolutely.
of just moving on to a different kind of question. So what is your, do you have a favorite or memorable recruitment story, Sandeep?
Yeah. Well, that'll possibly go back at least a decade, and it still remain memorable because it was unique in itself. This was an assignment where we have to do an hiring for a government enterprise. It was unique in a sense that the kind of services or the recruitment that we need to do was across our country. And if you know a bit of in India, which is spread across 3,500 kilometers, and we had to deploy people to the remotest area to give a hand and feet support. It was fairly unique to first and foremost identifying the talent in such a remote locations and district locations. Um, Doing a hiring of those locations within the stipulated period of time, really making them understand what is that assignment talk about, and then deploying those people given that period of time. And I'm talking about remote areas where it takes about 2 days to just about reach, and conducting the drives there, even creating a different sort of overall process. Those days, virtual was never been thought about, dreamt about. And by virtue of this challenge comes to us, and I think I can clearly say that we are the first one who adopt the overall virtual hiring process. Even then, when there was very difficult to make people commute from one place to another, so we had to leverage on WebEx. Those days we call it, and those were the medias that we used to conduct in interviews, have the virtual onboarding sessions, ensure that people have completed the documentation pretty well. It was quite a memorable to a fact that we have to innovate in many ways, from a sourcing strategy perspective, from our execution ability perspective. And it was such a scale of hiring. It was hiring of about 1,200 professionals over a period of 2 months, just to give you a little bit of sense.
Yeah,
right. So
gives a good picture of what the assignment was. Yes.
Yeah. So, if you envisage this about 1,200 in about 2 months, and, spread across the country, which is all directionals, it was an interesting assignment. You have to have a teams to coordinate, collaborate, and it's a cross-functional teams to collaborate. And there are a lot many learnings that we, had as part of that particular assignment. There were stories that we possibly have only heard of and were dreamt of, but those are all stories that we came across during that part of an assignment. And indeed, it was truly memorable for us.
Indeed. And there may have been a lot of need for different languages as well, right? To be able to connect to all different parts of India.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's where I said, and very well said. In fact, we had to look for recruiters who are very well conversant with the regional languages, because in India, there are about 25 languages, and there are many more dialects. So you can imagine that if you need to have a conversation with the candidates, you need to know. Although, we all speak in a common language, which is English, but, when you go and manage the hiring at such a remote locations, you have to have different files and different ways and means. And there were many challenges, and that's make the assignments a lot more memorable and interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, Sandeep, what advice would you give someone who is starting out in recruitment today?
Well, yeah, to me, anybody who wants to start needs to have followed just 3P. You need to be passionate, you need to be persistent, and you need to have perseverance about whatever you do. So, to be in recruitment, just be curious about what you do. Always keep the larger picture in mind, and always relate to the purpose of an organization as to what you or whom you're hiring for. The rest all are just the nuances and skills and tricks and tracks. All things can be learned and done. But I think these are the basic elements one should relate to as they try to begin their career with recruitment.
Well, thank you very much, Sandeep. This has been really valuable, and thank you for your generous sharing today. And for those who are listening in, who might want to pick up a conversation or who may want to connect with you, which is the best channel?
Well, LinkedIn, like as a social media channel, I may not be available on my official communication, but being a true recruiter, I'm always available on LinkedIn. So yes, that's where you can find me.
Excellent. Thanks again, Sandeep. And we have been in conversation with Sandeep Sethi of Emids. Thank you for joining us, and remember to subscribe to stay tuned for more weekly episodes from All in Recruitment.